Hi, and welcome. I'm Anna the Wolfe, a storyteller who tells transformative tales. And this is my 13th tale today, and it finds you walking along a path through a meadow, over a plateau, and into a forest, where you start noticing brown and gold signs popping up, mile markers and site attraction signs, and you realize you're in a national park. Everything's very well delineated and it's beautiful. It's pristine. It's gorgeous. There's rivers and there's all sorts of wild animals abounding there. You've seen an otter, an eagle, you've seen deer. Just about everything that you could hope to see in a national park is there. And so you decide this will be a great place for me to rest for a while, and you set up camp. And as you're sitting there toasting your marshmallow over an open fire, you see out of the corner of your eye a bird go zooming around, and it's circling. It's looking for a place to perch. And it goes a little slower and a little slower. And then it's astounding the speed at which this missile of a bird comes shooting out and hits the bird, and it comes tumbling down and falls to the ground right in your campground. And it stands up and kind of shakes its head, and you look at it and realize it's not a wild bird at all. It's a city bird. It's a pigeon, but it's got a band on its leg. And you look at it and you notice there's some numbers stamped around the band. You're like, oh man, bummer, little bird. That hawk really strafed you. That's got a smart. He looks at his shoulder and is like, it more than smarts. I don't think I can fly right now. It's really messed up. I can't even hold my wing up, and I'm right in the middle of a race. I'm a racing pigeon. This is really going to put some rain on my parade. He's like, great, great. And he goes stomping off into the woods. And you're like, oh, sorry, man. That stinks. And then Hawk goes zooming by. He's like, I almost had him. Almost had him. Next one, next time. And off he goes. And then the next morning you wake up and all of the animals are around. The deer are there, eagles up overhead. You can hear them all kind of talking amongst themselves. And deer said, hey, did you guys notice that there was a pigeon in the forest? Like, who let him in? I don't think he actually belongs here. He's not even wild. He's, dare I say it, domestic. That is a domestic bird. And Hare says, yeah, not only is he domestic, do you know what he's doing? He's out there eating my seeds. He is eating your seeds. He is impacting the entire ecosystem. It's really, really upsetting me. And all the birds and the deer are whispering amongst themselves. When Pigeon walks out, he's like, hey guys, good morning. How's it going? They're like, yeah, it's fine. You hitting the trail today? You're leaving, right? Pigeon said, not yet. I don't really have the resources I need, like feathers on my wing. They're missing still. Did you see what Hawk did to me? Like, I can't just get up and go right now, but I'll hang out for a little while. I'm sure you guys don't mind. I mean, I've got all kinds of skills you could use. I mean, I am a racing pigeon after all. I've seen all sorts of places. I've been all over the world. I could tell you stories about, hey, I don't think anyone asked you about where you've been and where you're from. We just noticed you're a pigeon, and that's enough. We know enough. The pigeon kind of was like, who? That's it? You don't want to know about Paris or London or San Francisco? Or there's some really great places in the world that I could tell you about. I've been to all the major cities and I've won a lot of races, and they're like, no, we don't really care about your past. We just know you're here in our national park right now, and that's not okay. Did you ask to be here? And Pigeon said, no, I didn't ask to be here. I didn't ask for any of this. I just kind of landed here. I'll keep to myself, all right? I was just going to ask you, where the stream is? They're like, well, I'm sure since you're so good at finding your way here, you'll figure it out. And they all turned their back on him. And Pigeon was like, oh, man, that is a rough group. I don't think I would ever really want to stay too long in this park. And he eventually wanders through your camp and notices you've got your clean canteen lid off, and he kind of looks in and it's full of really great water, and he sticks his head down in there, and you kind of chuckle as he takes a big sip, and he looks up and sees you and he's like, huh? But then he just walks back off into the forest and does whatever it is he does in there. And every day he comes back, and every day the other forest animals just razz him and make him feel bad about being who he is. I don't know how they could, honestly, because they didn't actually know who he was. They wouldn't hear him at all. But Pigeon, being a really kind bird, just kind of didn't hold them accountable for all of that behavior. Well, he was just one bird. He didn't have his whole flock, so it wasn't like he could hold them accountable. But the days passed into weeks, and his wings started to heal, but it was almost better when the weather changed dramatically and quickly. And all of the water in the whole park dried up. The creek stopped flowing. The leaves turned dry and brittle. And all of the tourists that had been there left because it was a dangerous place to be. It was far too dry. And Pigeon did what he always did. Made a living looking around, checking here, checking there, finding bits of this and bits of that. And the other animals started to languish. They didn't know what to do when there was no water. And eventually, Porcupine, who was just laying in the shade, so thirsty, said, Pigeon, what are you doing? You're just running back and forth like nothing is happening and the rest of us are dying. What are you doing? And Pigeon was like, well, like I was saying when I first came to this forest, I've been all around the world. I have skills that help me to survive. Are you interested in knowing any of those? And they're like, man, this thirst has overcome us. We'd love to know. If you know how to make water, please show us. What have you got going? And Pigeon said, well, I will show you. As a matter of fact, all you have to do is be ingenious. And he went into the campgrounds and showed them how, in potato chip bags that the tourists had left, rainwater had collected. And he said, if you hold them open, a lot of times you can find rainwater in the bottom. And it's a really good place to find some. They're like, oh, that's great. We'll try all the potato chip bags. He's like, but that's just one place to look. There are so many more places. He said when the rangers pull in, it's so hot. Their air conditioning is running on their cars. And there's condensation on it. So you just stand underneath and water drips off, and you can just open your beak and just get your fill of water there too. They're like, wow, we hadn't thought about that. He said, yeah, as a matter of fact, I've lived in a lot of different cultures and places, and I can tell you about a lot of different things I've experienced. And suddenly, Pigeon was everyone's best friend, and it didn't really matter where he'd come from, because he had skill sets that they all could use. Now, Pigeon didn't stick around there forever, but what he did leave them with was the idea that not every pigeon is a bad pigeon. I'm so glad you were able to join me today, Anna the Wolfe, on this transformative tale. And I hope that you will enjoy feeding the pigeons. Thanks so much. Goodbye.